Hi, Robert. It's great to have you with us today talking about a very important issue, that affects the sports nutrition industry, consumers' access to sports nutrition products. So I'm wondering if you could give us an overview of what's going on.
Sure, it's my pleasure. I do need to give a disclaimer at the outset. Nothing that I state in this setting should be considered legal or regulatory advice. But that said, this is an issue that everyone should be aware of. The general situation is that a bill has passed the legislature in New York that is intended to place age restrictions on products marketed for weight loss and muscle building in the supplement category. But in practice, the bill is very vague with its definition, so it's going to have a much broader dampening effect on the market for products that could potentially be read as falling under these definitions. To give an example, products are subject to these restrictions and could be potentially subject to action from the New York Attorney General if they are marketed in the same area of a store as a product that's considered for weight loss.
Yeah, so give us a little more detail, if you could, on what that practically means. If the bill passes, a consumer walks in looking for sports nutrition supplements. What does that look like on the other side of this? And I know there could be many possibilities, but can you set up a general scenario?
Sure. So there are a couple of ways that retailers can try to confront this issue. There's not a clear list of what products are covered. There's just a set of factors that the New York Attorney General would interpret. So what that means is a retailer is left with a couple of options. The first is that they apply an age restriction at the point of checkout. So you have to give them some form of ID to confirm that you're of age. The second is that they move these products behind the counter so that you have to provide ID to a clerk of some kind in order to gain access. And the third option, which regrettably is going to be the choice for a lot of retailers, is our suspicion, is that they're just going to stop carrying a lot of these products because the additional costs of compliance won't make it feasible. And again, bear in mind, this isn't just going to affect what you think of as weight loss or muscle building products. It's anything that they would be concerned might be interpreted as falling under those categories.
Yeah, to your point of there's a very wide open definition of what these products could entail. Oh, why is this happening? I mean, and let me just say, I know this is one case, but it's happening in other states as well. What's going on here?
So this is a decade-long situation. For more than a decade, a sort of activist training program out of Harvard has been pushing for these state laws that would apply these restrictions. And the bills have changed over time, but they've all been very overbroad. They all tend to mischaracterize the safety of these products in general, and they tend to encourage the false belief that these products will cause eating disorders. AHPA and other trade associations have been pushing back, but this one has managed to slip through. And to give a sense of the scale, let me see, there's, I think, 6 other states where these bills were introduced just this year. Massachusetts, it's in Massachusetts every year. California, where it's going to come back again next year. Maryland, again, coming back next year. New Jersey and Colorado. And if this bill passes into law, which at this point it well may, then we should expect that once what passes in one state, it's very likely to also enter law in other states. The whole process becomes easier.
Can you get into a little bit of the background on, I guess not knowing much about the situation up until, last year or so, if I knew nothing about sports nutrition, I might think as a consumer, okay, well, maybe weight loss products, I see the logic there. I'm not understanding the other sports nutrition products and how those are being associated with possible eating disorders. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So it's important to understand where these are coming from. There's an organization at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health called STRIPED, the Strategic Training Initiative for the Prevention of Eating Disorders. And STRIPED is basically a training ground to try to teach people about how to take a public health issue and turn it into law. And unfortunately, they're focused on eating disorders, and in particular, the leadership there is fixated on the belief that somehow consuming or seeing a product for weight loss or muscle building will create an eating disorder, a behavioral disorder in consumers. And so they've, over the years, repeatedly introduced these bills. They haven't been too specific about how they will function or whether or not they accurately characterize the category. And then they've tried to spread this belief among state legislatures. And over the years, they gradually gained success.
Is there data to back up their claim?
No. Frequently, Strike will try to conflate products that are illegal, that aren't lawful dietary supplements, products spiked with drugs that have actual safety hazards with lawful regulated dietary supplements. And in addition, there's no basis in any of this to claim that consuming a physical product will somehow induce an eating disorder, which is I've wrote a behavioral, a psychological condition, one that's very serious, but these restrictions don't wind up addressing the root causes there.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not, as we talk about eating disorders, it's a very serious topic. It just seems like there's a huge leap here from trying to combat an eating disorder and then going after products, and having an agenda to go after sports nutrition products. Is that fair?
Yeah, we've had some degree of communication with the folks at Stripe. They have the fundamental view that they seem to view that dietary supplements are fundamentally unsafe, and in particular that there is no reason for minors to ever have access to them. And sports nutrition products are just the product that wind up being in the crosshairs.
Yeah, understood. So, as we look at this legislation, just not only in New York, but like as you said, if there's a good chance of passing, it's going to move on to other states and could start passing there as well. There are a lot of people in this industry that are passionate that take supplements every day as part of their routine. Can you talk a little bit about what they can do to help, change the minds of legislatures or of the legislative bodies for the states, and also maybe what some of their lawmakers should know before, it comes up to a vote in one of their states if it's not New York?
Well, whether it's New York or not, there's never a substitute for being involved in the process and being involved early. You should monitor your state legislature and see whether or not this kind of bill is introduced. You should make connections with your state representatives and senators, establish that bond, and demonstrate the importance of the sports nutrition community in their constituency well in advance of any of these bills being introduced. Because if you already have that relationship in place, then you're better able to push back against these beliefs. And you're better able to demonstrate the value that sports nutrition provides to constituents in their district.
Sure. And this may be something that, as the legal counsel might not quite be in your wheelhouse. I'm going to ask it anyway, and we can, and let me know what you think. But I'm just curious, as you've combated this industry issue and you've talked to Stripe, have you brought any, do you have a sense of the market? What are we talking about when we're talking about minors? We're not talking about, 8-year-olds going in trying to buy some supplement, right? I mean, that's not the market we're talking about here.
You're absolutely correct. A number of the companies who are in this space already label their products as not for consumption by folks under 18, or have a disclaimer saying, if you're going to use this and you're under 18, consult with a physician. At root, the primary concern is that this is going to create obstacles to access for adult consumers of these products, who tend to be the core consumer base.
Yeah, and so you have big box stores that they one of the three options you laid out before in terms of compliance with this law that passes, they have shelf space. You have a lot of independent retailers who do not have shelf space or do not have a way to separate these out. And like you said, that third option, they might just choose not to carry it, which affects everyone of all ages trying to take the products, correct?
Yeah. Now, some versions of these bills account for this by just letting you scan some form of ID at the till, but even that frequently has additional adoption costs, especially applicable to small retailers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, is there anything else around this issue we should know at this point?
I think that issues like this reflect the importance of continuous vigilance for regulatory issues of all sorts. And it also reflects the value of trade associations that can help represent the sports nutrition industry. The American Herbal Products Association, but also others like the Council for Responsible Nutrition, the Consumer Healthcare Products Association, the Natural Products Association, and other state retail associations all have a role to play in helping push back against these sort of activities.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just give a shout out specifically to AHPA and the Sports Nutrition Committee, because not everyone may know that AHPA actually has a sports nutrition committee, because sometimes you don't think of botanicals, but you guys have this group that is just so vigilant, and the folks in the industry who are involved in sports nutrition supplements, they're all there. They're all pushing on these issues, from my opinion, harder than anyone else I see in the industry. So thanks for all your work on this.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.